Hi everyone, this is Claire, and today I'll be starting a new series on project analysis. So instead of breaking them into parts, to deep dive into a project as a whole. One of the reasons why I'm doing this is also because with the recent launches that have come up, right, we have EOK, Chuan, and Nava Grove. You may have gotten a good queue number, but right at the queue, you are not sure what to choose, right? So you end up either choosing the wrong unit or at the wrong price point. So with Orie coming out, we know that there are people waiting for this launch after the recent launches have come up. And what I aim to do is to be able to give you more clarity and most importantly for you to be able to choose the right unit and at the right price point. So this is why the video will be launched before its preview. And so going in, you know exactly what to choose and whether it's for own stay or investment and how to get the best of your money that you put in. So let's get started. How we run this is we'll do a quick brief of the project overall, some things to note, and then I'll deep dive straight into the floor plans and unit types. So Orie, this is at Toa Payoh. A new launch is coming up in January 2025. So we're quite close to that right now. I think what a lot of people are thinking is whether Orie is overpriced for the fact that the break-even price is at about 2,003 per square foot. So today we're going to study that, and if entering at 2,005 per square foot or even up to 2,008 per square foot makes any sense at all. So Orie being RCR is quite central in location. So today the closest one that we can actually reference from is Nava Grove and Emerald of Katong, which sits in the RCR region. We also have Chuan that sits right outside the Central Core region. So today we're seeing the prices for Nava that has already hit 2,007 per square foot. For Emerald of Katong, the top units actually went at 2,009 per square foot. And for Chuan Park, around 2,007 per square foot. Right, so Orie's break-even price right now is at 23xx, right? So they will likely launch starting from 25xx, right? But what's critical for you to know is Orie is actually 40 stories, right? So from first to 40, if we do assume a 10k jump for each floor, just to make simple math, right? 40 floors would equate to 400k difference. So for the first floor and the 40th floor, for the exact same layout type, you could be paying at 400k more, right? For example, down here can be 2,005 per square foot, right? You buy the low floor 2,005 per square foot. Up here, possibly 3,000 per square foot. Right, so is it worth going for high floor and when do you switch gears for another layout in this case, right? So later we'll talk about this and deep dive a bit further into the pricing. Orie at Toa Payoh is at Long 1 in District 12, right? There are 2 blocks of 40-story high units, 777 units in total. Car park allocated to us is 80% of the car park lots. More importantly, this is developed by 3 quite well-known developers. So CDL is one, Fraser, and Sekisu House, right? So they have done quite a number of good projects, and I wouldn't expect the furnitures to be bad, right? If you just look across the street where we have Gem Residences, that one is developed by Avia, and the furnitures are not that great, right? So coming into Orie, you know that this is a well-known developer. These 3 are good developers to consider, so you know that the furnitures will be of a certain standard. So in terms of location, this is walking distance from Braddell MRT, right? So it's just a short 5 minutes walk, fully sheltered. You can walk through the car park here all the way to Braddell MRT, and then that takes you 1 stop to Bishan and 1 stop to Toa Payoh, which are the 2 kind of major hubs in that city. You'll be glad to know that the units here are all north-south facing. So you either face north, which you can see all the way up to JB. So the northern view is something like that. And if not, then down south, you can be able to see CBD. So if you want to be able to see fireworks during New Year or Christmas, higher floor units at Orie will allow you to see that. Overall, also, Orie is surrounded by HDB flats, and the highest one is at 22 stories. So once you cross that from the southern view side, you should be able to have quite a clear view of the city already. Parents of school-going children will be happy to know that this is 1 km from Pei Chun, which is quite a popular school, ranked 19 under the MOE side. There's also CHRJ Primary Toa Payoh, but that's also pending confirmation from MOE whether it's within 1 km or not. But if not, definitely within 2 km of Orie at Toa Payoh. Okay, now let's come to the site plan, right? So there are 2 blocks, right, of 40 stories, total of 777 units. The block-to-block distance is about 43 meters, so quite decent. It's a full-fledged condo. You get a tennis court, you get a lap pool, you have a clubhouse, you have a kids' play area as well. So I think overall, as what you would expect in a condo, it's relatively, I would say, full-fledged. Other than that, what I want to highlight here is that actually the developer is pretty smart in building the units here for the 2-bed 1-bath. So if you see the circle over here, B1 is a 2-bed 1-bath and C1 is the 3-bed compact. So what the developer did was actually they built a air well over here. And that would mean that they can build windows somewhere, right? So because of the air well, they can potentially build windows in the kitchen or in the toilets as well. So this is a rare gem in the market today to have a 2-bed 1-bath with windows, right? But unfortunately for the 2-bed 2-baths, which are all in the middle right here and over here on this block, they do not come with windows. So they are more of the compact style 2-bed 2-bath. But for the 2-bed 1-bath will be quite a rare find in today's market. So that is something to look out for. But later we'll dive a bit into the floor plans. Of course, the corner units that are bigger, the 3-bedroom, the 4-bedrooms will allow to have windows. And actually all the units, even for the 2-bed over here and the 2-beds over here, you get fully unblocked view. So nowadays, we also see the distribution is always like this, right? Primarily is in the 2-bed and 3-bed range. 10 to 12% will be catered for the 5-bedrooms, and 60% will be catered mostly for the 2 and 3 bedrooms. So developer also needs to be able to maximize their profit margin for a per unit basis. And they also know that the demand comes from mostly the 2-bed and 3-bed, so it makes sense to distribute it this way. We've just gotten some official perspectives of the development, so looking at it, it looks quite majestic. I think it will be quite iconic when it comes up. And also within the Toa Payoh area, because everything is kind of like in a lower density. So this one will be definitely quite iconic. And the land size is slightly bigger than Gem Residences, which is 38 stories. Okay, just to set some grounds on how we're doing the analysis with the pricing, right? So for all unit types and all floor plans that I'm looking at, the estimates on the pricing will all be based on 2,005 per square foot. Okay, let's go to the 1+ study, right? So if you're looking at 1+ study here today at Orie, this is the floor plan. It's at 517 square feet. This is a harmonized project. So harmonized project means that the aircon latch is not included. So 517 square feet is a full livable area on the floor plan. I would say it's a quite conventional layout, right? You got open concept kitchen, you got a study at the corner. They definitely will give you an aircon unit for that, but nothing much to call out for the floor plan itself, right? But most people buying into a 1+ study here are likely buying for investment, right? So a small pool of people will be looking for own stay. But the biggest question here is, will you be able to exit in the future? So based on 2,005 per square foot, if I times the 517 square feet, the entry price for a 1+ study here at Orie will be 1.3 million. If you want to buy for investment, the rental here will give you about $3,000 a month. That sets your rental yield at about 2.7%. The yield is not that high for the fact that right now in today's market, you can find something of a similar quantum that gives you a 4 or even higher kind of rental yield. Okay, so the question is, can you exit in the future, right? So today, if I buy at 1.3 million, I want to exit at 1.4 million with a slightly higher rental. The rental yield is going to be about similar, right? So it's going to be about 2.8%. If you want to sell at 1.4 million, almost the same kind of rental rate, it will be slightly harder to exit. Okay, but if you're looking for own stay, you want a brand new development, you want a renowned developer, you want a good location, that's perfectly fine. But of course, because it's a high-rise development, then entering a certain price point is important. But if you do have a little bit more budget and you want to choose between the 1+ study or the 2-bedroom and 1 bathroom, this will be a really good choice to look at, right? So for 75 square feet more, you get a full-size room, you get a dedicated dining area, and you get an enclosable kitchen with windows. Potentially for investors, this is going to be the most hot selling in my opinion, because for a 2-bedroom, you also get better rental for a little bit more difference in terms of the pricing, right? So based on that, a 1+ study for 2,005 per square foot will be about 1.3 million. For another 180k top up, which is slightly under 1.5 million, you potentially get a 2-bed 1 bath and also have an enclosable kitchen with windows, right? So this is quite a smart layout, I would say. You cannot find a 2-bed 1 bath with windows in the kitchen in today's market. So it's quite a rare gem. Very likely this one will move first for people looking for just purely investment. So the other question is, in the resale market, we also want to know if this 2-bed 1 bath can be more superior than others, right? So let's take a look at the other 2-bed 1 bath, which is at Gem Residences. So comparing Orie 2 bed, 1 bath, 592 square feet versus Gem Residences, which is just right beside you. 2 bed, 1 bath, also the same size on paper, right? Orie will be harmonized and Gem Residences not harmonized. So what that means is that Gem Residences, the 592 square feet will include this aircon leg. The Orie's one will have slightly a bit more space in practicality wise. So that's one. The other thing is the kitchen is an enclosable kitchen. Right, there's a dedicated dining area, I would say, but for Gem Residences, the dining area that they put is kind of in the middle of the living area and the corridor space. The other thing to point out is that at Gem Residences, the second bedroom can only fit a single size bed, while at Orie, the bedroom sizes are quite decent. You can fit a queen size bed and possibly 1 or 2 side tables as well. And then the third point about this is that the balcony is not a full length of the living. Right, so because of that, it also kind of blocks out some light coming through to the living room as well. So for the same square footage, I think Orie's layout for the 2 bed 1 bath would definitely be more sought after once it hits the resale market a few years down the road, especially with the enclosable kitchen that is the only one in the development for 2 bedrooms. So now we take a look at the 2 bedroom, 2 bed 2 bath. Today, if you're looking at a 2 bedroom at Orie, which one do you choose? Because there are 3 layouts in total. Right, so we have a 646 square feet, we have a 678, and a 700 square feet that it's a 2 plus study. Right, so I'll walk you through the differences here. So the smallest 2 bedroom, 2 bath, enclosed kitchen, no windows. Enclosed kitchen, no windows. Bathrooms, both dumbbell concept. So it's a very typical 2 bed, 2 bath layout that you can see in the recent harmonized projects. So like Emerald Katong is similar, Nava Grove is similar as well. So dumbbell concept, why people like it is because there's no wastage of corridor space. Why people don't like it is because if let's say you're hanging out in the living room, then your guests can see into your master bedroom directly, right? So it's a bit less privacy, right? Then we move on to the 678 square feet. 678 square feet in the middle here, this is the only layout that is non-dumbbell. Right, so that gives you more privacy. The other thing to point out is that here will be kind of open concept. So in this case, you get a enclosable kitchen for the compact 2 bed 2 bath dumbbell concept. Then the middle one is where you get a privacy in your master bedroom, right? But an open concept kitchen and slightly wider living and dining area, I would say. Then the third 2 bedroom layout is actually the 2 plus study that sits at 700 square feet. What you get is an enclosable kitchen, right? Same thing as the 646, but it's slightly bigger. And at the same time, you also get a study. If you look at the pricing between the first two and the last two, right? If you're considering a 646 square feet and a 678 square feet, and whether privacy is important to you or not, most importantly is zooming down to the pricing. So 646 square feet at 2,005 per square foot, you can potentially get a unit here at 1.615 million, right? For 678, open concept kitchen and a bit more privacy, you will need to pay additional 80k difference based on the same per square foot pricing. So that I would say in the resale market, does it matter or not to have privacy in your corridor space? I would say for this case, just go for the lowest entry price. So for the bigger 2 bedrooms, right? So if you're comparing 678 square feet, for example, if let's say the 646 square feet units are all out already, you're only left with between 678 and 700 square feet, and you're buying this for own stay, 678 square feet times 2,005 per square foot will be around 1.7 million. But to top up a little bit more, that means you top up another 55k more, you get a bigger kitchen, enclosed kitchen, and also a study. I would say the choice would be to go for the 700 instead. So if I compare the top choices for 2 bedroom, right? The first one will be 700 square feet. The one with the study, because the price gap between the 700 and the 678 is quite minimal. So go for the one with the study. Okay, between the 6746 and the 678, I would say the price gap between the 646 and the 678 can be quite significant. From the resale market perspective, you do not have to pay extra for privacy. So I would say go for the smaller one. But of course, the top choice that I would say if I look at 2 bedrooms across the board would be the 2 bed 1 bath transactions. And the reason is because if you're buying this for investment, the 2 bed 1 bath transactions for Gem Residences versus the 2 bed 2 bath rental transactions for Gem as well do not differ much. So they're all kind of ranging around 2005, 2008 across 2 bed 1 bath and 2 bed 2 bath, right? So from an investment point of view, you want to get the maximum yield possible, then the lowest entry price would be the best, right? So in this case, my top choice for investors looking to rent out this for the short term and then sell it off later would be the 2 bed 1 bath layout. So the same scenario is relevant in this development called Sterling Residences. They also have 2 bed 1 bath layout and 2 bed 2 bath layout, but you realize that the 2 bed 1 bath being about 100 to 150k cheaper, for the same amount of rental, the 2 bed 1 bath, actually the units are moving very, very quickly. The 2 bed 2 bath are kind of slower. And for investor profiles coming in, what I want is a lower quantum and maximum yield, right? So in this case, for Orie, if you're looking at just purely for investment, you can potentially look at the 2 bed 1 bath, and it will move faster because the profile of people coming into this mostly buying for investments, I would say. Because there are quite a number of 2 bedroom layouts, if you realize the sizes for harmonized projects especially are very close to each other, it is important for us to know how the developer price their units so that you can make the best out of your investment and your yield, right? Because if you buy too high floor, then the question is, can the market absorb the kind of high price that you want to exit in the future? And I think this is how we want to understand the pricing strategy and how it affects your profits in the future. Right, so one example I can think of is Avenue South Residences. Right, so we break it down into 3 different phases. People who buy into low floor versus people buying into high floor. What's the difference like? Okay, so this is Avenue South Residences. Low floor in green, mid floor in yellow, and high floor in red. People who entered earlier in the game at lower floor, they purchased at about 1,008 to 1,009 per square foot. Their profits for the same holding period is around 200 to 300k. Okay, then we move on to the mid-floor ones, right? The people who enter a bit later, 20 plus floors, right? They enter at about 2,000 per square foot. Average profit is about around 100 to 200k. Then phase 3 in red, people who entered even later, right? 40 plus floors, even up to 50, they entered at 2,002 to 2,004 per square foot, but their profits are around 80 to 150k. So here we also know that actually there is no need to go for high floor, especially when you're buying for investment, right? So there are other examples here to show why choosing a high floor for a premium of a view possibly may not yield you that much profits in the future. So this is Seaside Residences. First floor versus 20th floor, exactly the same stack, exactly the same size. The entry price is about 250k lower, but the profit for the first floor unit is about 100k more. Same thing for Principal Garden, exactly the same stack, exactly the same size. Because of the lower entry price, the lower floor unit bought at 165 per square foot lower, but profit actually 200k more, right? And for 2 bedroom units, actually for additional 200k more profit is quite significant in today's market. So what's important to note here is that one, your entry price is important, right? With a lower entry price, your capital outlay is also lower. With the lower entry, your risk is also lower as well, because when others are transacting higher in your development, that is where your cushion and your buffer for profits is, right? So here we also know that Orie will be quite a hot selling project, right? So with a good Q number, you will have the advantage to buy a good unit for sure. The biggest problem with how this works is with balloting, right? You can be at the front, right? But you don't know what to choose. And then you choose wrongly. But if you're at the back, then you don't have much choices left, right? So when you know your queue number, when you go in, you need to have a strategy to know what you want to book and what's the different threshold that you set before you go to another unit type, or before you decide, okay, this price is a bit too high, so I'm not going to enter, right? So buying a property here, especially in today's market, is not as easy as you think. You will need to work with someone who knows the most, right? So agents, we know the most because we go through buying and selling every single day, right? So knowing what to buy is one, right? But if you don't know and you're unsure, you can feel free to reach out to me. After this entire video, I hope to give you some clarity on making sure that you make the right choice and find the right unit that will help you maximize your gains as an investor. So moving on to the 3-bedroom, there are 4 layouts in total. So we start with the most compact one. This is a 3-bedroom sitting at 850 square feet. So for own stay buyers looking into buy into this, this will probably cater more for upgraders looking to enter into the private market because the price point here is quite attractive. Right, so at 850 square feet, 2,005 per square foot, you are looking at about 2.125 million and up to be able to get a 3-bedroom here at Orie at Toa Payoh. How the layout is like is there is the window here that is being catered for the bedroom too, right? So looking over this side, you will be looking at the 2-bed 1-bath window at the kitchen. Other than that, the kitchen is a enclosable kitchen with a store at the back, but there are no windows. But it might fit for people who are just looking at a smaller 3-bedroom, in this case, probably for school and possibly to stay just for a short while, right? But from an investor point of view, this kind of entry price is hard to find in today's market if you're looking at new. So this layout also allows you to possibly do co-living for rental with minimum renovation costs, right? So you can rent out one room here, where a master bedroom. You can rent out one room here to share the bathroom. You can also build a wall here and a door to be able to fit for one more room, right? So you can potentially be able to rent out to 4 different tenants at the same time, and that will give you kind of like a maximum yield for this kind of quantum is something to possibly look at, right? For 3-bedroom here, 850 square feet, harmonise. If you look at the 3-bedroom analysis for Chuan Park, for example, right? Their compact 3-bedroom at 915 square feet. This is already going at 2322. So Orie's entry price 3-bedroom will be quite attractive as compared to going to Chuan Park, for example, right? Considering that it's still a full-fledged condo, it's not something like a boutique development to consider. I think for a 3-bed, you can potentially rent it out from an investor point of view because the entry price is quite attractive at 2.1 mil. Then we move on to the 3-bedroom premium, right? So 3-bedroom premium has 2 sizes. One is 1023 and the other is 1044. The only difference is in the foyer space here. Right, so one is a bit squarish, the other one is a bit long, and that's where the additional square footage is catered to, right? But overall layout-wise, you still get a full kitchen with yard, WC, home shelter with windows, right? You get 3 full-size rooms that fit for a family, I would say. And the price that we are looking at is about 2.5 million up. So based on 2,005 per square foot, times the smaller size for 3-bedroom premium, you are looking at about 2.5 all the way possibly up to 2.8 for higher floor units, right? The reason why I think that both units will be priced very similarly is because the 1023 is actually facing south, right? So the south facing, you get the CBD facing. You will probably be having a better views than the north facing one. So even though it's bigger. So between the two, I would say if you can go for the low floor ones, both are actually going to be priced quite similarly, right? So if you have a good Q number, you want to look at something like that, I think you can possibly look at the south-facing low floor unit. Now we compare between Orie, the 3-bedroom premium versus the Chuan Park's 3-bedroom premium, which is of a relatively similar size. Right. For Orie, we get a longer kitchen. For Chuan Park's layout, right, what I would comment on is it has a shorter kitchen here, but at the same time, the home shelter is actually not tucked in the kitchen, right? So, for example, this layout, right? This home shelter will definitely not be able to cater for a helper's room. But for Orie, the home shelter is in the kitchen, and then it has a WC possibly to fit in the helper as well. So I think this layout between Chuan Park and Orie, I would choose the Orie's one just to be able to cater for families in future demand, to be able to cater for a helper if required, right? So the first impression when I saw Chuan Park's layouts are like actually they're not really very friendly for possibly slightly bigger families but want to cater for helpers. Now we come to the 3-bedroom dual key, right? Dual keys are quite common right now. They probably usually cater one stack for dual key units for people looking to buy for own stay and part investment as well. This is the foyer. There will be a studio unit, right? And the pantry that does not give you any induction cooker or anything, right? So this one is really just for probably people don't cook, right? So you get a fridge, washer dryer, sink, that's all. So that's why they call it a pantry instead of a kitchenette. For the other side, which is the 2-bedroom side, you get a home shelter. You get an enclosable kitchen that leads you out to the balcony. So quite a unique layout, and I think it will be quite sought after if you're just looking at this particular site, right? So, but the size difference is quite significant. 3-bedroom premium is biggest 1044 square feet. The 3-bedroom dual key is 1130, right? So based on that, 1130 times 2005 per square foot, you're looking at about 2.8 million and up. Question is it worthwhile or not, right? To go for the 3-bed dual key. If I look at just purely from a rental perspective, right? Today, if I buy a 3-bedroom dual key here at the Orie at 2.9 million, my mortgage upon TOP based on 2.55% interest rate is at 7,800. If I assume that the buyer for this couple with maximum CPF contributions, my monthly cash outlay is actually 4,330. If I rent out both units, 2-bedroom, and I rent out the studio unit at 3,000 and 3,008 for both, I will get $6,800 a month in terms of rental. After deduct the maintenance of about $400 a month, I should still get a positive cash flow of about $1,600 a month, right? So from a rental yield perspective and having positive cash flow, this might still work. The question is, if I stay in one and I rent out the studio, right, for example, based on the same assumptions, if I just rent out the studio unit at $3,000, my cash flow after deducting maintenance would be negative, right? So if you want to be able to stay in one and rent out the other one, it will not make the most out of the investment. And at the same time, you may have a problem of letting it go. There are two reasons to this. One is the price gap between this one and the 3-bedroom premium, right? The other one is for dual key concepts. It actually really caters to a very specific group of buyers. So some of them, they really just want a 3-bedroom for own stay, right? I think Orie at Toa Payoh, a lot of people are coming in to buy for own stay because the location is central, amenities are there, and it's near a lot of schools as well. So when people are looking to buy a dual key, I think the future pool of demand is going to be smaller. Between the normal 3-bedroom and the 3-bedroom dual key, the price gap is actually about 215K difference, right? So you can get a normal 3-bed at 2.5 million and know that it will be demand coming in to buy a unit in the future. Or you can get a 1130 at possibly 2.9 million if you don't have a very good Q number. And may not be able to let it go so quickly, right? So I think the strategy here is, if you're looking for a 3-bedroom even for investment, right? I think the best case scenario is to just go for the normal 3-bed, because the price gap between the 3-bed and the 3-bed dual key is actually quite significant, right? And they may also pump in a bit more premium for dual key units because people are looking to buy for investment in this case. Okay, now we come to the 4-bedroom analysis. There are 3 different layouts for the 4-bedroom. There are 2 different 1216 square feet units. The difference between the 2 different 1216 is actually in the foyer area as well. This one is a bit more privacy, I would say. This one, people can look into your unit directly. This one is like an L shape where you possibly can put some storage here or some storage over here, but that's the only difference. So this is a 4-bedroom plus study. What you have in the difference, right, is really a study here with windows and a slightly wider living and dining. So at this point, we don't know the full dimensions yet, but based on estimates and looking at the floor plans, this will be a slightly wider living dining area. But the main thing that I wanted to point out is for 4-bedroom buyers coming to the market, right? Even for you, if you're looking at 4-bedroom, your future buyers would also prefer something a bit more luxury, especially if you're in this location, right? So one thing to point out is that all 3 layouts do not have the landscape living, right? So landscape living, what I mean by landscape living is that you have the balcony and then you have the living and dining here instead. In most cases, this is like about 5.5 meters, right? So for Orie 4-bedroom, they do not come with the landscape living. But between the smaller 4-bedroom and the bigger one with the study, if we look at just purely price difference, right? 1216 times 2005 per square foot, you are looking at about 3 mil and up. For the 4-bedroom premium plus study and a slightly wider living and dining, you're looking at about almost 400K difference. In the future, all will sell as 4 bedrooms, right? So paying additional 400k for the additional study and a slightly wider living and dining area may not be that worthwhile. So what we want to do for bigger bedroom types especially, right? We want to be able to compare with the resale transactions in the area and see whether your layout and your unit type can be more superior than others. So when it hits the resale market in the future, it will command a bit more demand. And with demand, higher prices and higher profits for you. Right, so if you look at Gem Residences, TOP 2019, 578 units. Travista, TOP 2011, which is about 13 years old now. And Orlando Towers, right at Toa Payoh MRT, TOP 1998. So this is Travista, the one on the left. You see that at 1,600 square feet for a 4-bedroom, the floor plan actually comes with a lot of wasted space. So here, PL is planter box. You get planter box here, a big balcony. You get bay windows in all the rooms here, even in the toilets. Planter box here as well. But this one has a landscape living and dining area that I was talking about. They also have a junior master, I would consider, and the bay window in the toilets as well. So if you just compare 1,006 per square foot, translate to a 4-bedroom at Orie at 1,216 square feet, minus all the wasted space that you see, bay windows and all that here, I think it can be quite comparable. Right, so for example, if you're looking at a 4-bedroom today in the market, you want to either go for Travista or go for Orie, for example. Orie's entry price is at 3 million up for the 4-bedroom. But Travista is already asking 3.2, 3.4 and 3.6 for the bigger ones, bigger 4-bedroom units. So I think when it hits the resale market, this will still be relatively sought after, just minusing the fact that it's not a landscape living and dining area, which may be an issue in the future. But in terms of price point, if you're looking to enter a 4-bedroom, overall profitability that you see, let's say for Gem, because it's good to compare with Gem because that's the newest development in Toa Payoh that you can compare with, right? For the holding period of about 6 years, for a 4-bedroom at Gem Residences, make about 500 to up to 700k. Right, so I think it's pretty decent for a 4-bedroom unit at a relatively the same size, right? So Gem Residences is 1,249, a non-harmonized project, right? So for Orie, we're looking at 1,216 harmonized. So full livable space is at 1,216 square feet, and to make the same kind of profit, I think is quite decent for a 4 to 5 year holding period. Okay, and the reason why Gem Residences can perform so well, mostly for the 4-bedroom, is also because we're kind of in a school zone, right? We are 1 km from Patron, which is the SAP school. There are so many secondary school and JCs also in the area. So Raffles Girls is one, CHRU Toa Payoh, RJ, RJC, Cat High and all. There's also just 5 MRT stops to Somerset. So family profiles, even if you're looking to just buy a place or rent a place just to be near the school, there are families looking at this as well. Okay, last but not least, this is a 5-bedroom. So the 5-bedroom comes with private lift. It's at 1,453 square feet. So this is definitely has a bit wider living and dining area. You have a private lift lobby, come in, you get a dry kitchen. So that's where the dining area is. Dedicated yard, home shelter, and also a back door here. Decent 4 bedrooms, and you get a junior master here as well. So I think for this layout can be potentially quite sought after, and the reason is also because of the entry price, right? So at 1,453 square feet for a 5-bedroom with private lift, 2,005 per square foot, you're looking at about 3.6 million and up. If I compare supply of 5 bedrooms Thomson, so D12 and D20, you realize that actually there are less than 10 listings on the market, right? And they are all slightly older. And at 3.6 million and up, I think is, if you're comparing between a resale 5-bedroom, 9 years of freehold versus new Orie 5-bedroom, I think at this kind of price point, it might still be something you can consider. Okay, but if you are looking between 4-bedroom and 5-bedroom, right? Maybe you don't have such a big family size. I would say the smallest 4 or the 5-bedroom, right? So the smallest 4, right, at 1,216 square feet is actually for about 3 million and up. But if you want to hop over to the 4-bedroom plus study, right? For example, you really just need the study. You have 3 kids, for example, right? Getting to 4-bedroom premium will be about 400k more, right? So between the 4-bedroom, I would say if you can go for the smallest 4-bedroom. But if you're looking between, let's say you don't have any options for the 4 bedrooms anymore, you're looking between the 4-bedroom premium and the 5-bedroom, then I would say actually the price gap between the 4 plus study and 5 is not that much, right? So you can potentially look at going for the 5-bedroom instead. But I would caution you that the 5-bedroom, right, it will mostly be let me just zoom back to the layout again. The 5-bedroom here will be mostly like a part stay, part sale kind of strategy, right? So we don't expect that we can find ready buyers in the market like you can for 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms, right? So for 5 bedrooms, it's harder for you to let go in the resale market. Definitely, we need to be able to find the right buyer, and it will take time. Right, so if you're looking to buy a 5-bedroom, I would say you can potentially stay in it for a while, right, and then slowly find a right buyer as well. So at least you know that it's not left empty, right? So for 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms, you know that the transactions are moving faster because for people with a bit more budget, then the 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms are a bit more palatable for people to enter. But for 5 bedrooms, it's a different strategy altogether. If you're entering at 3.6 million and you want to exit in future at 4 million, for example, or 4.2 million, that will take some time for the right buyer to come in. So I would say this is more like a part stay and part rent kind of strategy. Okay, so in summary, I will just go through all the different bedroom types and then what to kind of look out for. So 1 plus study, I would say for own stay, it's okay. But for investment, if given the budget, go for 2 bed, 1 bath for higher capital gains and rental yield, right? For 2 bedrooms in totality, I would say the 2 bed, 1 bath with windows in the kitchen is very, very rare. And because the quantum is going to be slower than the 2 bed, 2 bath, this one will be hardly taken up very fast, and I would think they are mostly investor profiles. Okay, for normal 2 bed 2 bath, the price gap between the 678 square feet and the 700 square feet is very close. So I would say if you're buying for own stay, you rather go for the one with the study because you get additional enclosed kitchen plus study as well. For 3 bedrooms, try to go for the 1023 square feet for lowest entry. And for the 4 bedrooms, there are no landscape living for all. So it makes no difference. If, for example, if the 1367 square feet comes with a landscape living, right? You get the 5.5 meters living dining area. Then I would say, yes, I think it might make more sense to pay a premium for that because people coming in, buying a 4 bedroom here, they are looking for a bit more luxury in space and good location, renowned developer and all that. So the landscape living would make sense. But if not, then I think best to go for the smallest unit at 1216. And finally, for the 5 bedrooms, the supply of 5 bedrooms are relatively low. So in terms of price point, it's quite attractive. To exit will take some time. So the 4 bedrooms will definitely move faster than the 5 bedrooms for sure because then the quantum is about 600k difference, right? So for you to exit in the future, if you buy at 3.6 and you want to exit at 4.1 or 4.2, that will take a while. Okay, but overall, I think what I want to point out here is that because when you go high, right, above 22 stories for the south-facing view, you will definitely see unblocked views, right? You can see all the way on the CBD and you can get to see fireworks at night. But for an investor point of view, I think what is important to know that is you should not be paying so much of a premium for the view, because the lowest entry price will give you the lowest risk and will potentially give you the highest profits in future. Okay, so I've come to the end of the project analysis for Orie at Toa Payoh. So I hope this is insightful and I hope that you can get something out of it. If you're still unsure or you want to ask more questions about specific bedroom types or unit types that you're looking at and price point, when to exit, which floor makes the most sense, then you can reach out to me here. My WhatsApp number is here, or give me a call. You can also check out my Instagram pages and TikTok pages or send me a comment there if you like. Thank you. So we'll see you in the next one.